Right, and I got a second resume. And this is a re-review, I think. So thank you. I'll save
All right,
that.
good afternoon. Welcome everybody. It's Effective Wednesday, Effective Resume Thursdays. Thank you for joining our workshop today. Just please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook, I think. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you do give consent for your comments, name, and picture to appear. For those people on Zoom, if you will, we'd ask that you go to the speaker view, which is what's in the lower left-hand corner. That way you can adjust, if you're on a PC or Mac, you can take your mouse and where that red arrow is, you can grab that and slide that back and forth to adjust the ratio for whatever works best for you. If you're on Zoom, if you have any questions, we ask that you open the chat box up and enter those questions there. And for those people on Facebook, if I can find the feed, I will be able to monitor the comment box, but right now I can't do that. So if I don't get to your question, that's what has happened. We will review, you have two resumes already?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we'll skip that one. All right, well, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Morris. I founded Career DFW back in 2008 to help the unemployed in the DFW area. In 2012, I started CareerUSA.org to help people outside the DFW area. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and I lead the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. And I'll tell you about our programming that's coming up tomorrow at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Well, today we've got two speakers with us, Carol Burkell, who's a certified professional career coach, and Susan Shapiro, an executive leadership coach. So ladies, please take it away.
Great, thank you, Jeff, for the introduction. Thank you, and what I will do is share my screen and share my presentation and get in slideshow mode. And you should be able to see my presentation and also hide the name of annotators in case anybody wants to be annotating my slides as I talk. The names won't show up. All right. Okay. Welcome to everyone. This is Effective Resume Thursday. My name is Carol Burkell, and I'm really pleased to have a co-host who will be introducing herself in a moment. Susan Shapiro is joining us. She's an executive coach. And it's really a pleasure for me because I've known her my entire career, and it's just an honor to be co-presenting today. And as Jeff mentioned, we will be using the interactive features of Zoom today. So we designed this to be fun and interactive for everyone. And so I'd like for everyone to go into the participant box. And when you see me looking over here, I'm looking over at my other monitor and looking at the participant box. And if you could click on a green check mark if you've seen one of these Resume Thursday sessions before. And if you've never seen one of our Thursday resume sessions, click on the red X. So I'd like for everyone to go into the participant box, click on the green check mark or red X. So we have several people that are returning and a few people that are here for the first time. That's great. We've designed this presentation to work for both audiences. There are some key things that we review about resumes every week, and we always add kind of new information. And then every week, either I do some research or bring in a guest speaker to add new content to make it different every week. And as a next step, I'd like for everyone to open up the chat box as well, because we will be using that. And throughout this presentation, if you have any questions, you can submit those in chat. And so please open up the chat box. And to get us warmed up, I'd like for everyone to go into the chat box and answer this question. What's the best career or resume advice you've ever received? Because we've got a great career coach here and we're helping with resumes. I'm interested to hear what's the best advice you've ever received, either regarding your career, job search, or specifically related to resumes. I'd like for everyone to go into chat and enter a couple things or a couple keywords. I'm starting to see some comments coming in. I'll just pause for a moment while the comments come in. And yeah, Susan has posted, you can't change things you don't like about your boss. You know, that is so true. And it gets kind of dicey if you try to change those things. So for your own career protection, focus on what you can control. Yes. And then use keywords from the job posting on your resume. Thank you. We cover that topic in this session today. And somebody said, tailor your resume for your particular job and use keywords. That is one of the most important things that you need to do. And somebody said, keep your resume to one page. And actually, as I've talked to a lot of recruiters, and I've been a recruiter myself, I'll explain my background. But when I talk to career coaches and recruiters, the sweet spot's actually about 2 pages for experienced people. Now, if you're right out of school, you've only had 1 job, maybe 2 jobs, you might be able to fit it on 1 page. But actually 2 pages is more of the sweet spot. Hiring managers want to see your story. They want to see the progression. They want to see the gaps, see longevity. There's a different type of document called a 1-page executive bio. Mina Brown has a great book called Be Sharp that talks about that. So that's a different type of document that you can use for networking. And then somebody said for your resume, it should be achievements focused, and for your career, network always. One time somebody told me, you know, the only time so-and-so reaches out to me is when they need something. And you don't want to be known as that kind of person. The only time that I hear from you is when you need something. It's good to be supportive and just be present when you're networking continually, and you know, be supportive. Don't just reach out to people just when you need them. so networking is important, and building those relationships and helping other people, because then when you need help, they're probably more likely to help you. And somebody said, keep it simple with your resume. Bingo, that's so good. Use action words and condense it. If it's really, really, really long, condense it to 2 pages. Unless you're in higher education or government, they like long resumes. And for some technical positions, sometimes it might go on to a 3rd page. Somebody else said keywords and add new numbers or quantitative results. Ask yourself, so what, on every bullet. Thanks for sharing that. We'll talk about what that means. That's the so what game. And then tailor your resume. Those are all great. Good. And so by way of background, and I do like to explain my background, because as I offer advice, I'm offering it from my perspective. And you'll hear different pieces of advice, either from other panelists, Jeff or Susan, or participants. And your job as a participant really is to listen to all this advice and really follow what would work best for you. So it's really up to you to choose what you think would be best for you. I'm just sharing based on my experience. And I had worked for an IT company for over 30 years as a hiring manager. And then I retired in 2012 and got a job as a recruiter, so I could really learn how the recruiting industry works. And it worked out really well. I worked in both an agency environment and a corporate environment, and really learned a lot, so that now that I'm a career coach, I can share that knowledge with people. And I've placed people in a variety of roles: accounting, finance, HR, leadership, project management. And then I serve as a volunteer for the Dallas Pit Crew, where you can practice interviews. And we put together mock interview panels, and now we use Zoom. And so if you ever want to practice, and I encourage you to spend just as much time practicing for your interviews as you are updating your resume. You want to practice for interviews, you can reach out to the Dallas Pit Crew at gmail.com and send your resume and a sample and the job description, and we can set up a panel discussion for you, panel interview, and give you feedback. And then I've gone through the process of getting certified as a professional by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. And the information about the Pit Crew is in the chat box, so if you want information about it. And at this time, I'd like to ask Susan to explain her background, and she'll be co-teaching with me today.
Thank you, Carol. I'm a leadership coach. I work with executives in organizations, and sometimes they're interested in moving around in the organization. So I do help them prepare for interviews, and yes, they have to create resumes too. But primarily, I work with executives on leadership skills. So I sort of have an angle about if you're going for a leadership role, what people are going to want to hear and see on your resume. So I have 15 years as an executive coach. Prior to that, I was with Hewlett Packard, and I worked there for 18 years in various roles, various leadership roles, and global roles, which I think has helped me understand the importance of culture and organization and why some people don't fit in certain organizations and certain cultures. It doesn't mean you're bad. It means you may need a different culture. So it's okay to change and make your new job search into something that's a better fit. So I help people get ready for expanded roles and expanded responsibilities. I help them with onboarding, and I help their teams. So that in a nutshell. Thanks, Carol.
Great, excellent. And since you're a leadership coach, I'm curious for our audience, I'd like for everyone to go into the participant box and hit the green check mark if you've been in a leadership role. So I'm curious how many people in our audience have been leaders. And I'm seeing a few people and a few people not. Okay. So if everybody could go into in the participant box. Yeah, so we have a mixture of people that have been leaders or individual contributors. So that's great. Good. And as I mentioned, I've worked as a recruiter, and I recently retired last year from a wonderful family-run staffing agency called Next Step Recruiting, and I keep really close in touch with my colleagues there. In fact, I check in with them every week to see what their latest hot jobs are. They recruit for IT positions and a lot of coding type of positions on the IT side. And then on their professional side, they recruit a lot for financial accounting and some HR positions. So if you are in any of these types of positions, these are some of the hot jobs they're recruiting for right now. But if you're anywhere in accounting, finance, even operations management and HR, learning and development, and they need a instructional designer. If anybody's an instructional designer, there's a wonderful contract opportunity right now. But if you meet the requirements for any of these jobs, feel free to contact me, and I can get you in touch with the right recruiter at Next Step Recruiting. And get your resume to me as quickly as possible, because these jobs won't be there very long. There's a financial analyst job, bookkeeper, accountant, a couple of accounting positions, and a credit collection supervisor, and a digital marketing specialist. So if you meet any of those, or just in general, accounting, finance, or HR, or even IT, business analyst, feel free to reach out to me. And this is our agenda for our session today. During the first half, we'll talk about applicant tracking systems. And Susan will share a bigger perspective today about her career life cycle model, and then also her top resume tips. And I'll review again some new content we covered last week about how to fill in a gap in your resume. So I'll cover that again briefly. And then we'll talk about key components of a resume. And then we'll go to this section where we review a couple of resumes. And I've already had 2 people submit samples, and I appreciate that. So to get started, we'll talk about applicant tracking systems. And those are systems like Taleo, iCIMS, the section of Workday. That's when you're uploading your resume into a system online. It goes into one of these systems. And what it's doing is it's reading the data in your resume and parsing that data and putting it in the database. And so you don't want to use any special characters or boxes or even special bullet points. And you don't want to use your header and footer. It won't pick up that information. And in some systems like Workday, if you make your LinkedIn URL a hot link, that could goof up the parsing process. And each applicant tracking system is different, and each company implements them differently. So there's a lot of variations, but in general, you don't want to use special characters. And you do want to use keywords to align to the job description. And we'll show an example of that. And if you want to test out how your resume compares to a job description, you can use jobscan.co. If you could, if you've ever used jobscan.co, go into the participant box and click on the green check mark if you've ever used it. And if you have any comments about it, you can type any comments in chat. Thank you. Somebody has given me a red X, so they haven't used it, but several people have used it. If you had any advice or information to share about the use of it, go ahead and type some information in chat. That's great. And then most applicant tracking systems give you the opportunity to also upload your resume as an attachment. And that version you'll want to have in a PDF format to protect your formatting. And if you want to create a separate version that has maybe some more underlines or boxes, you could do those as well if you want to maintain 2 resumes. And somebody asked, do bullets count as special characters? The default little bullet points are fine, but if you change them to check marks or stars or chevrons, those are special characters, and that can cause issues with some systems. So thank you for that question. And also, regarding resumes and attachment, when I was a recruiter and we'd get hundreds of people applying for a job, I would just go down the list. It would sort them for me based on keyword match. And I'd get through maybe the top 10, maybe. And I would just click on the resumes, you know, and so I looked at those resumes as an attachment. And I looked to see if they were referred from any employees in the company. So the resume as attachment is important to the recruiter. I never had time to look at the cover letters, but if you want to submit a cover letter, you can, and we have a very simple template to make it easy for you that we will share in the chat box here shortly. And then overall, regarding ATS systems, you want to kind of keep the big picture in mind because each system is different, and you'll probably hear conflicting information about how they work. And somebody asked, is it better to attach a Word document or PDF? And that's one of those situations, it depends on the system. Some systems don't read PDFs very well when you're submitting it online, like Workday doesn't read PDF files very well. So when you're submitting it online, actually a Word document's better, but your attachment for the recruiter to look at so that you protect and freeze the formatting, PDF's better. So sorry if that's confusing, it does depend. And so it depends. And so basically just remember to upload a resume that has no special formatting. And once you've uploaded, take a quick review of it. I know with Workday, you can go in and fix things. Like if you have a PMP and you put your name, comma, PMP, your last name will probably be your last name, comma, PMP, and you may want to clean that up. It's just the way the system works. And sometimes it takes the summary information and thinks that's your most recent job. And so you may have to clean that up. So it's good to take a moment and just review the information that's been uploaded. And then,
hey, Carol?
Well, yes.
So when uploading to an ATS Word format, when sending to somebody you want a job from in HR, it's a PDF. What if you're sending it as an attachment to a recruiter who's just going to turn around and probably upload it to their own ATS?
Yeah, and most often recruiters like for you to go to the process of uploading it so that you can double check everything's okay. Sometimes they will upload it quickly into the system, but when you're reaching out to a recruiter at a company, I always found it was helpful to go ahead and get in the system first so that when you call them, they can pick up the phone and see that your information's there. But what you're saying is correct. When you're uploading into the ATS, Word document generally is better. And when you're sending a document to somebody or uploading it as an attachment, a PDF will protect your formatting a little better. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Sort of.
Yeah, but the question was, what do you send to a recruiter if you haven't preloaded it in their ATS?
Kind of depends on
Word or PDF?
Yeah, if it depends what they're going to do with it. If you think they're going to upload it, then probably default to the Word version.
Yeah, but I think I would, if I was sending a resume like to Babbage and Associates, they want a Word document. I think the first document I would always send, though, would be a PDF, because that's protecting your document in its total, in the whole thing. But I know when I've dealt with Babbage, they got me my last job, they wanted the Word document so they could strip off the header information and just say candidate A, Babbage, they could put in their header information and then just say, if you're interested, then we'll connect you with this person. So
Yes.
I think always send a PDF, and if they want something different, they're going to ask you for the Word document.
Yeah, that's a very.
So I'm hearing both. Send them a PDF and a Word, and you explain, here's my resume, and oh, by the way, I included the Word attachment in case you want to monkey with it or upload it to your ATS. How's that?
No, I would not include, I would only send the PDF. Personally, I would only send a PDF document to everybody unless they specifically asked for the Word document, because then they're going to monkey with it. They could monkey with it, because when I send a PDF file, when I send my PDF resume, the first page of my resume is a cover letter. So the second page of the PDF is the first page of my resume, and the third page of the PDF is the second page of my resume. So I'm going to make sure that the entire document's going to get there. And if they pass it around to anybody else, all the cover letter and the resume is going to go together.
Gotcha.
If they then call and say, hey, I need your Word document because, then I would send it to them.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, every agency recruiter, anybody that works for an agency would eventually want the Word version. So to make it easy for the agency recruiters, and if you don't mind them having the Word version, you can make it easy for everyone and go ahead and include it. So it's up to you. Yeah, but every agency recruiter will eventually need the Word version. Okay, great. Corporate recruiters, not so much. Good. Okay, so basically, we talked about the ATS systems, but the most important thing is not just rely on the ATS system, because your chance of getting called for an interview when you apply online in an ATS system is virtually zero. It's 2%. So what you have to do, the really most important part, is to reach out to a person to get noticed. Your chances will increase to up to 50% if you are referred by an employee within that company. So do some research on LinkedIn to see if you have any first or second level connections at that company to refer you to the recruiting organization. If you don't know anybody there, then reach out to the recruiter who posted the job. If you can see the name of the recruiter, sometimes on LinkedIn you can see the name of the recruiter who posted the job. And if you don't know anybody, don't know the name of the recruiter, then do some research, do some searches for people at that company and look for anybody with a recruiting or talent acquisition leadership title and reach out to them. And I even recommend picking up the phone and calling the main number and asking for that person. You'll get connected to their phone line, and nowadays it's cell phone numbers, and let them know that you've applied for their job and you meet the requirements for the job, and you'd be happy to have a conversation. So I know that whenever, as a recruiter or recruiting leader in corporate recruiting, whenever I got a call like that, I always invited those people in, because that showed they were very focused and very good. Okay, good. And somebody asked, what about when you apply directly at a company's site? Well, when you apply directly at a company's site, you're going into their ATS system. So you probably want to, when you're applying, use that Word document, because it'll probably go into something like Workday or Taleo if they have that. So at this time, I'd like to give Susan an opportunity to talk through a career life cycle and then her resume tips.
Great, thanks, Carol. I created this life cycle just to put in perspective that we're always in a cycle, right? We're either happy in a job, unhappy, searching, needing to network, needing to tweak and get the latest tips on resume. But I want us to take a step back for a minute and take a wide angle here. Realizing that we're always in a cycle might help you do better on any specific area. So for example, let's start with the green at the top. We have purpose, strengths, and interest. It's really important for you to have some clarity about what's your purpose. You know, do you love working with teams? Do you love fixing things? Do you have a passion for change leadership? What is your kind of purpose? And it doesn't mean, you know, feed the world, although if that's part of your mission in the world, that's okay to know, but get in touch with that. Number 2, strengths. Read the Strength Finder book, Strength Finder 2.0. Learn what yours are, because that will embed in your LinkedIn, it'll embed in the way you communicate, your value proposition, your elevator speech, etc. You've got to know your strengths so that you're more self-aware. When you're self-aware, you're more attractive to other people. People are drawn to you if you're clear about what you're good at. Okay, same with interests. If you have some really unique interests that tie right nicely into your job, maybe some nonprofits you work for, maybe some hobbies, maybe you're just really good at learning new things in your specific industry, like in IT. Well, hone that, get close to that, and continuously learn. Just because you're not working doesn't mean you can't take a class on Coursera, get smarter, build more skills. So we can't ever stop learning. And the more you develop those interests and act on them by developing them, the better. The orange part is just what you're going through now. You're researching jobs, you're tweaking your value proposition, you are tweaking your resume, you're networking, you're interviewing, and you're negotiating, hopefully, for a job. Just like someone said before, never stop networking. The time to network is always. It has to be credible and not superficial. Have reasons to reach out to people, not just, hey, do you know someone at this company? Although now, if that's where you're in, go ahead and still do it, but realize you've got to give to get. How can you help them? What can you do for that person? And it'll make someone feel more comfortable helping you. The blue area, I see the blue areas a lot when I coach leaders in organizations. They're always skill building. They're doing on-the-job performance issues. You know, how can I get better? They're advancing their leadership development. And then sometimes we all run into stress, work-life balance, and burnout. So this cycle will begin again, maybe in a couple years when someone peaks out or they're ready for the next role. So I just wanted to place this in here as a way to step back and look at where am I on this cycle? And if you're already down at LinkedIn and resume and you haven't looked at your interest and your strengths, and you haven't done research on the right job for you or what the market has, what the market looks like, go back to those steps. So, okay, I'm ready for the next slide. Okay, quick resume tips, and I know some of these you've heard of before. Number 1, make sure you have quantifiable results in your job. If you're going for a leadership position where you have direct reports, state how many direct reports you have in your current job. So, and if you're big enough to have a budget, high enough in the organization to have a budget, those are 2 questions that always get asked. Well, what was your budget when you ran that team of 80? You know, what was your IT budget when you ran IT for this company? How many folks worked for you? How many worked for the whole organization? Those are numbers you have to have on the top of your head. So make sure they're in your resume. Number 2, I'm kind of a stickler for separating job responsibilities and your accomplishments. Job responsibilities are pretty much, I don't want to say you don't put them in your resume, and we'll let Carol tell you where to put them. I mean, sometimes you have to explain what you did on the job. Responsible for leading a team of 40, you know, change leadership for such and such. But I like to see accomplishments. I like to see, well, what did he do when he had that job? What did he change? What were the cost savings? What did he reinvent? What did he come up with a new process for? One quick trick I used to do with people is I'd look at their resume and I'd say, okay, where is it a responsibility and where is it an accomplishment? And I would have them just write on there, R, if it's a responsibility, a job responsibility, A, if it's an accomplishment. Quickly look at it and go, am I overloaded with too much responsibility and not enough accomplishment? You might reword it to really highlight those accomplishments, highlight those results. because unless someone doesn't understand what your job is, you had some sort of weird job that was a combo of two other jobs, you might need to state, well, I was in charge of quality and I was a financial analyst. You know, you might need to say that. Okay, next one. If the company name is not recognizable, insert the URL. Well, we just learned from Carol that the ATS systems don't like hot links, so don't put that in. But I guess my point is highlight it bigger. Maybe you can bold the title.
You can make it just text. Yeah, you could make it text if needed. Make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the actual hot link.
Just make it text, because you want them to easily find out, well, who is this company you work for? They might be a startup. They might be something that no one's heard of before, but you had a really cool job there. And it might be important to show, well, I was a controller at that company. In a bigger company, you'd still be an accountant, but in this smaller company, you were a controller, which shows a lot of leadership. So I guess what I'm saying is think about what's more recognizable, the title or the company. You know, if it's WeWork you worked for, maybe you put WeWork in a larger font. If it's the title that shows great progression in your career, you might want to highlight that and put that first. That's just and just to throw more monkey wrenches into these rules here. Seek out an expert and pay for help. I can't overestimate this one. I have two family members, both got laid off during COVID, both hired a resume person, both got back on their feet really quickly. It's worth every penny. You can justify this to your partner or your spouse. It is worth every penny because you can't screw up the resume. If you do, you're never going to get called back. So get it done right. Get the latest tips in there. Go to a professional. And then my last one is use a more current email address. And I'm only saying this because of an experience my husband had. Hotmail, Yahoo, AOL could make you look dated. It could make you look like you're not tech savvy. Now, I'm just talking about bias out there. He posted a job on LinkedIn for, he was a consultant and doing some hiring. Everybody that answered with AOL or Yahoo or Hotmail, he didn't even look at. And I said, that's rude of you. Why are you not doing that? And he said, they're not with it technically. That's unfair, but it happens. So I would just put it out there. You don't want any bias against you. You want every chance, every fair level footing. So get a newer email address and that might help you.
Susan?
Yes.
If
Yeah,
you
what does
wanted
he
to take it a
recommend?
step further, if you wanted to take it a step further, get your own domain. If you want to look really tech savvy,
Yeah.
I went and grabbed keelan.us 10 years ago. So my email address is matt@keelan.us.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I completely agree with you on the AOL, Yahoo. Sorry, Jeff.
I even noticed yours, Matt. Thank you for telling us. That's the first thing I looked at on yours. And I would expect that being an IT guy.
What are other domains that are more with it besides Yahoo? What does your husband recommend, or what one?
Gmail, or if you have your own URL, if you have your own website. Some people who are freelancers in this interim COVID period have a website. You know, get an email on your own domain.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so
Another option, Gmail is relatively new. Outlook.com, which is the Microsoft, is kind of the new Hotmail, is also very good. So if you can't get what you want with Gmail, you know, Gerald Smith at Gmail's already taken, go to Outlook.com and see if you can get Gerald Smith there.
Okay, thank you.
Great tip. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for Susan. So you brought up some good points. So when I'm showing some formatting things, I'll try to remember to show where to emphasize some of these things. This is great. Good. And a question that came up a couple of weeks ago, and I did some research, and this is something I talk a lot about with people, especially people who may have been laid off in 2018 or 2019, and they have a gap between then and now, and what to show on their resume. And so when I'm coaching people, I talk a lot of, I ask them questions. What are you doing? Are you doing any leadership in the community? Not just attending networking meetings, but really leadership or any consulting or any continuing education. And if so, you could potentially make that as a title and add a couple bullet points. And so I'll show an example. And I've had a couple of clients do this and help them get more phone calls from recruiters. So this is an example. This is just based on the type of work that I do. So just to provide an example, let's say I got laid off in 2019, and while during my job search, I have done some leadership in the community and some consulting. So, serve as a panelist for the pit crew, and then provide consulting services to a local nonprofit organization, because I actually did some consulting for a church to help them with their interview process. So, but I put nonprofit organizations. So that's just an example of what you can do to fill a gap. And I'll just kind of review quickly some of these characteristics about good resumes and formatting so we can get to our samples that we have today. And your goal is to make it really easy for the ATS system and the recruiters to see very quickly that you're a good match for the job. So you want the formatting to be clean, lots of white space. We've talked about length. 2 pages is the kind of the sweet spot. And the common question we get is the number of years. And we've got, how many years should you show on your resume? I think we have a polling question we can put here. And so I'd like for everyone to answer this polling question regarding how many years do you show on your resume? Do you show all of your experience? Like I did when I was looking for a job and at the age of 60, I showed everything from 1980 on, but those people knew me and that worked for me. Doesn't work for anybody else. Nobody else has selected that one. And then the other option that I would see a lot as a recruiter, and it would actually cause confusion, is when you see somebody who's a senior VP or a CFO, but they only show 10 years of experience. And I'm like, okay, what did you do to get there? It looks like it doesn't show the full story. And also during interviews, it can cause confusion because if you refer to a company or an experience that's not on your resume, that causes confusion and it causes the hiring manager to think, okay, what else is being hidden here? So there's some issues with that. So the preferred method really is to show details of your most recent positions and then have a heading that says prior relevant experience. And you can just list the company names and your titles. You don't have to put the dates there if you don't want to put the dates. So thank you for filling in that poll. If anybody has any comments about that, feel free to type those into chat. And these are the components of the resume we'll be talking through. And we use a format that I had developed as I was working with hiring managers and presenting dozens and dozens of resumes. And I got a lot of feedback from hiring managers regarding what they liked. Also, when I got certified, this is the format that they teach. And we just submitted a template in the chat box so that you have those. And then also in the career transition workshops that are taught that Jeff will be talking about, they use a format similar to this. So these are some of the key components of a resume. There could be other components as well. And also we've submitted in chat a sample or a template for cover letters, a real simple, easy template. So your heading, you want lots of nice white space, let it be clean. You do not need to include your physical street address anymore. And phone number, major city, email, LinkedIn URL, preferably not a hot link for the uploaded version. And then your summary section, put the title. If that's the title you've had and that's the title you're applying to, make it really easy for the recruiter to see that you're that type of person. Put it right there. And this opening paragraph should really be no more than 3 lines, just a very executive level summary of who you are as a professional. And this is one you can modify based on some of the professional skills or industries that they're looking for in the job that you're applying to. And then in terms of keywords or areas of expertise, again, this section, you should modify every time you apply for a job, and it should take just a couple of minutes. And then an optional section you can have after the areas of expertise before you get into your professional experience is overall key accomplishments. Maybe think of the top 3 or 4 major accomplishments you've had in your career and highlight those. I see this most often with people that are in sales, business development, or some of financial or even recruiting jobs where there's a lot of targets and financial measures. And in terms of the professional experience section, you want it real clean and easy to read. And I'm going to reduce the size of the videos here. Takes me a second. There we go. So I can see the whole screen. What I'm doing is minimizing the little video images so I can see the whole screen. So you want to make it real easy to read with the dates right, justified. And where Susan was talking about responsibilities and accomplishments, these bullet points really are intended to be more like accomplishments. If you want to have a sentence, maybe 1 or 2 lines about your responsibilities, you could include that right after your title. You could say responsible for and list a few things, and then have your bullets really focus on accomplishments. So you could do it that way. And then in terms of the number of bullets per job, you want to limit that. You don't want 15 or 20, and you do want to focus on maybe the 5 to 8 most relevant accomplishments related to the jobs you're applying to. And these bullets should be accomplishments and not read like a job description. And so this is a method of turning your bullets into more accomplishment based. So what you want to do is read the bullet point and ask the question, so what? What was the result? What was the outcome? And that'll get you more towards the outcome. And this is a real example. Several people have probably heard me do this before, but a real client had a bullet point where they developed a Visual Basic program to automate the conversion migration of data. Now that's kind of interesting. That was one of his responsibilities. But I asked him, so what? What was the result? And the result was it reduced the data migration time and eliminated errors and increased the stakeholder confidence. So he rewrote that bullet to focus on those outcomes. So the first verb is more accomplishment oriented, reduced data migration time, eliminated errors, and increased stakeholder confidence. So you can read through the bullets in your resume and say, so what, to get to these points. And then if you have multiple roles at one company, this might be a time where you actually bold the company name and have the dates in bold for the whole time you're at that company. And then for each title, in parentheses right next to the title and not right justified, have the length of time you're in each role. And this way, a hiring manager at a glance can see the progression there, and it doesn't look like you're a job hopper. Because if you just write justified just the dates for your jobs, it'll look like you're a job hopper. So this is a recommended format. And if your company has changed names, you can either give the name of the current company followed by the old name, or the old name with the date of the acquisition. And in my resume in 2012, when I retired from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Services, who had acquired EDS, it actually said Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Services, formerly EDS, or I could have said EDS acquired by Hewlett-Packard. And they were actually acquired in 2008. Those are a couple of things there. And I know some people have also suggested if the company is not very well known, you could include a very short line describing what that company does as well, to give a little bit of background. And you want to be sure to include your education and software skills, especially, you know, once you've read that job description and see what software is needed, you want to make sure that you've listed those in your software skills. And I want to show one of my favorite slides real quickly before we show our examples. And this is an example of a job description for a business analyst. And what I recommend, every time you apply for a job, spend just a few minutes, maybe up to 15 minutes at the most, and really read the job description. Print it off and highlight it, or look at it on the screen and look for the key skills that they're looking for, and make sure your resume shows those key skills like business requirements and improving processes, And then down below, in a job description, it might say qualifications or requirements for the job, or well, here's what you'll bring to the job. Look for what they're really looking for, like Agile and Scrum, and make sure you've included those keywords. And look for any software that they're looking for. And if you have that experience, include it there. And if you're finding that everybody's looking for Visual Studio, you might want to go watch it, buy the software package and watch a few YouTube training classes and maybe do a little project on your own. And so in an interview, you can say, yeah, I've attended some recent training and I've done some projects related to that. And then somebody asked about functional resume. When having a functional resume format for career change, I'm interested in what Susan says about this, but as a recruiter, when I was presenting resumes to hiring managers, they wanted to see the chronological story. They wanted to see your story. Now, if you're making sort of a career change, but your skills that you have are applicable to that job, you could highlight those skills up there and highlight the accomplishments related to that job. But functional resumes, hiring managers would say, okay, send me the chronological, they wouldn't even look at it. Send me the chronological one. If you want to have a deeper discussion about that, the person that raised that question, I'd be happy to have a quick offline discussion with you. And Susan, what have you encountered as you've coached people regarding functional resumes?
They're hard to read. I would go for chronological. I think if you do what you said earlier, to keep it crisp and only list the last 10 to 15 years and then maybe say previous experience in such and such area, that's fine. Usually people get into trouble because they have a 3-page resume and they're trying to reduce it and they think if they make it functional, it'll make more sense. But it's messy, it's hard to read. You know what? If it's hard to read, it won't get read.
Yes, yes. So thank you very much for that. Okay, I'm going to go new share. So I'm sharing a resume here. Okay, can you see the resume? Okay. Good, good. I'm going to attempt to click on my chat box. Good, okay, good, everything worked. And yeah, thank you, Susan, for that, because, and making career changes right now in this really competitive market right now, I'm really advising people to apply for jobs where you meet 90% of the requirements. Unless you know somebody and are networking in, you would have a hard time. If you don't have any of the skills that are required, it would be very difficult. It's different if you're networking in and you have an old boss advocating for you and is getting you in the door. But anybody wants to talk about that offline, just reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can chat about that. So now we have a sample resume. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down it and give you about 7.4 seconds to look at it. That's how long a recruiter typically looks at a resume. And I want to have everyone go into chat and type in a few keywords about what you like. And if you see anything that could be improved to improve the effectiveness of the resume. So I'm going to scroll down, got the contact information, got a summary, got skills and abilities listed, got your experience section, the dates nicely right justified. And yeah, this one was a briefer job, and due to COVID, it was brief.
Yeah, exactly 2 months.
Yes,
So,
yes.
So there's nothing quantitative there. It was basically what I was hired to do, and then the third bullet laid off due to COVID.
Yeah, and normally I don't put that on a resume because sometimes it's, but you may want to. That's a personal choice. I don't usually put the reasons for, I call them RFLs, reasons for leaving on a resume. But if you find it helps you explain that.
It's the only one that's there, and I've asked a lot of people. And it's about 75-25. 75 say go ahead, 25 say no.
Yes.
But it would, with only 2 months, you could argue that it's obvious, but I felt like I needed to explain, the 2 months, because the previous job was 10 years.
Right. Grant Thornton. Oh, what a great place. Yes. So excellent. And all these things are a personal choice, based on the reactions you're getting from recruiters. And I encourage everyone, reach out to an agency recruiter just to get their feedback and get their feedback about the marketplace and make friends with them. And then they can advocate for you as they're talking to clients and maybe find you a job. And let's see, we'll go through the rest of the resume. And there's some other jobs. Dates nicely justified. And it does go on to 3 pages. Three. Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be 5. I got
okay, well, good for you for getting it to 3.
Down to 3. I'm old, so.
You're younger than me. You're not old.
So there's a lot of experience.
Yeah. If you want, you could get it down to 2 quite easily. I can help you with that offline if you want to.
Okay.
Okay. So if anybody has any quick comments about the resume, what they like. And somebody said, how do you condense? Yeah, I had 40 years of experience and I got it to 2 pages. So it's possible. And yeah, Perot, Dell, and NTT Data, I know all those companies. Yeah, so it is possible. It'd probably be a conversation, add prior experience for previous roles.
So Matt, my favorite question is, what are your top 3 skills there?
Yeah, something, I've actually hired somebody to help me with this problem. As a consultant, you do, 4 to 8 projects a year in a different industry doing something different. So when I put together my resume, this was November, October last year, I literally cataloged in a spreadsheet all the projects I'd done for the last 15 years. And then I could dedupe them, and this is how I came up with this list. So I actually have hands-on experience doing all these things in about, I think it was 27 industries.
As an interviewer, the interview would be over right now because I asked you a question and you didn't answer me what your top 3 skills are. What are your top 3 skills?
I would say program project management, IT strategy, and IT service management. The top 3.
What if you're applying for a change, organizational change, or what if you're applying for a data analytics job?
Well, then those 3 things would be at the top per the customize your resume to the job description discussion.
Yeah, so maybe what this is your, what I call your 10-page resume. And when you see a job, you then eliminate the things that are not in the job description. Because if they don't ask for it, don't tell them about it. That's the key. So you have this big master, I consider this then maybe to be your master resume. And it could be 4, 5, or 6 pages long, that's fine. But when you see a job description, if it's not asked for, because what's the purpose of your resume that you submit is to get that phone call. And then when you get the phone call, then you can get into more detailed information. Well, here are other things I've done, but
sure.
It's so this is great that you've really thought this out and this is expanded. I would hope that when you apply for something, you're not sending this, you're sending a reduced version of this.
Correct.
Yes. And I think I would use true bullet points instead of these hash marks. I think bullets look a little cleaner. And
I was told the ATS might not do well with bullets. That's why there's dashes.
Okay.
Do you not?
In the research I've done, I haven't run into that. But
okay.
Yeah, I have not, because it is bullet is a standard thing, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I checked with a Workday consultant on that too. So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, so you definitely want to reduce this to 9 bullets at the top of your resume, 3 columns if you can, and have them be what's relevant to that job. And this is a lot of text right here.
I think you also need to play the so what game. So
yeah.
Like led an IT assessment and an ERP package selection for one of the largest YMCAs in the country. So what? What was the result? What did it increase something? Did it do something? You know, where are the results?
Yeah,
I think we're out of time.
unfortunately, I wasn't around for that part. I just did the assessment.
Well,
But
okay.
I get your point.
Yeah, where possible, you can.
Carol's so what game I think is so effective because everybody, a lot of resumes you tend to see are like job descriptions. This is what you did as what you did on your job, but what was the results of what you did? And that's what sells you into a job.
Okay. So I would reduce the text. I think there's a lot of opportunity here because a hiring manager is not going to read that. You want the headlines. And this will help reduce it down to 2 pages. And a job that's over 25 years ago to have this much text, yeah, unless it's something really critical, you might have a couple of bullets. So, okay, I think we're out of time. And I know there was a second person who submitted their resume. If you want to reach out to me offline, we can continue our conversation offline.
Thanks for the feedback.
You're welcome. Thanks for participating. And thank you, Susan, for co-teaching with me today.
Susan, Carol, thank you all very, very much. Yeah, we have to be out by 2 o'clock because there's another group that's going to try to use the Facebook page, and so we need to be done. So if you want to reach out to Carol, this is what her Facebook page looks like, or her LinkedIn profile looks like. And oops, it didn't switch. And here is what Susan's looks like. If you want to try to reach out to her, please, if you're going to send a connection request, please send a personal note. Just don't hit the connect button. Please let her know. Please let them know that you saw them at this presentation or something. If you try to reach out to me and you don't send a personal note, I will not connect with you. That's my rule of thumb. You need to send me why you want to connect with somebody on LinkedIn. For those people on Facebook, if we're on Facebook, I don't know if we are or not. I can't tell. If you want to get the sample T cover letter or resume, please send a resume, or please send your email to webmaster@careerfw.org. Let me know what you're looking for, and I'll be glad to get those documents to you. This Friday, the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. Tomorrow morning, our speaker happens to be Carol again, so you'll see her again tomorrow morning. And she'll be talking about guidance for job seekers during a pandemic. So should be an interesting presentation. Next Tuesday, Locke Alderson will be doing our LinkedIn presentation. Also on Tuesday, the Frisco Career Transition Workshop has session 2, and it'll be resume optimization, design, and content. So that should be an interesting presentation also to see how close today's presentation and next Tuesday's. That'll be a good one to check on.
Oh, darn, I'm busy. I was going to watch it. I'll watch the recording.
Okay. Next Wednesday at 1 o'clock, Interviewing Wednesdays will be on session number 8, Building Rapport, How to Establish Chemistry with the Interviewer. And then just as a reminder, all these sessions will be recorded. They will be on the Career FW Facebook page, and for sure they will be on the Career USA YouTube channel. Please check, please follow, subscribe to both. That would be greatly appreciated. If you happen to go to the YouTube channel, it's the Career USA YouTube channel. Where you see the green arrow, I recommend you click on playlist. It's the easiest way to view everything. And then underneath it, you'll see the 6 or 7 playlists that have been created. And then like underneath the effective resume one, you can click on there where it says view full playlist where the red arrow is. And up will pop all the lessons, and you can go back and watch any of them all the way back to the beginning of when we started doing this. So just a reminder, Career DFW is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Carol, Susan, myself, we're all volunteers. We're all here to help you land your next great opportunity. We don't get paid to do this. I don't get paid for anything from Career DFW to do this. I'm a volunteer. This is just what I do to give back to the community. We survive on donations. It helps pay for the web hostings and all the things we do. Please consider when you do land your next great opportunity that you will make a donation. And if your company happens to offer matching donations, please look our name up. That way your donation doubles in value. And if you don't see our name on the list, please reach out to me and I will get our name added. So thank you very much for your time. Susan and Carol, thank you again for your time today. Everybody have a great week, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow or next week sometime.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, bye-bye.